See, I knew this was coming, and boy, did it ever. Being a stay-at-home mom is not a job whatsoever. It's a privilege. You're privileged enough to be able to stay home because you have someone that provides a life for you that allows you to do so. Do you know how many single mothers out there actually have jobs and have to come home and then do your job? And before the group of women jump on here and say, we have the hardest job in the world. No, you don't. Not even a little bit. I was laid off of work for 4 months and I had to stay home, and it's the easiest shit I've ever done in my life. In fact, I got bored. I can do all the daily responsibilities that come with taking care of a house in no time. And then other than that, all you have to do is watch your kid, who when they get to a certain age, they pretty much watch themselves. Especially if your kid is in school. You're not a stay-at-home mom, you're just a stay-at-home. And then if you and your husband flip roles and you have to get a job and you have to provide for the family and he stays at home, he's a lazy piece of shit. But if a woman does it, it's the hardest job in the world. Make that make sense to me. And I'm not knocking stay-at-home mothers. I have respect for them, and I honestly think the world needs more of them because it's good for the kid. And coming from experience, I didn't have a mother growing up, so I know how important that is to a child. You just can't give me it's a full-time job. You can't take a nap at a full-time job. You can't watch TV at a full-time job. You have someone watching your every move at a full-time job, demanding that you do what they say. And it's funny that all this backlash and these comments are coming because I made a video that said a man shouldn't have to beg his wife to sleep with him. Let's look at the stress on a stay-at-home mom. Do you have to worry about providing a home for your family? What about food? What about transportation? What about clothing, school supplies? What about medical bills? Water, heat, electricity? Money for after-school activities like sports. Does your family's survival in life rest on your shoulders? What were your responsibilities today? Fold some clothes and change a diaper? I cannot imagine the stress that put you under. See, most women have no idea the stress that men are under, and the women that do are single, independent mothers that take care of themselves, and when they get in a relationship, they appreciate the fuck out of the help, because they know what it's like to have that stress on them. So you don't have a job. You're privileged because someone that has a job takes care of you. And once again, no hate to stay-at-home moms. You're actually very appreciated. Let's just call a spade here.
TikTok is full of stay-at-home moms. How? Like, at what point did you and your husband sit down? Did you have to, like, figure out your finances? Or were you just blessed with a husband that makes, like, a ton of money, especially in today's society? How are women affording to stay home? How are you affording everything? I don't know. I don't know where to even start, but my 6 weeks is up and I can't find anything that's work from home that would be like baby friendly to have the baby with me. And I'm literally freaking out. I don't know what to do, but I can't afford daycare. That's absolutely not an option. So if anybody has any advice, let me know how that conversation with your husband even went. Like, do we just write out all our finances, see what we can afford? Let me know.
It's a choice and not a forced one. If you're someone who is not into career, who loves to be a stay-at-home mom, and you can afford it financially, then yes, it is a privilege. But you're someone who's forced into it because you can't afford a daycare or any sort of child support, then no, if it's not truly a privilege, you're kind of sacrificing yourself and putting your kid, at the first place rather than you fulfilling your own desires. Don't mind me, I have had terrible postpartum hair loss, so I'm sort of just oiling my hair and talking to you about it. Now, I know a lot of women might not agree to this, but I think it all comes down to if you're sort of financially and emotionally ready to, not be working, if you've had a good career, and then, be a stay-at-home mom. So
women are so thirsty for stay-at-home dads right now. Check this out.
You going to school to become a nurse. I thought you would want your business. I love it. I think that it's different.
And it makes sense. Women are working more and earning more, but also studies have found that dads actually enjoy being the stay-at-home parent more than moms do. Some of the biggest issues that women experience in marriage is feeling like they're carrying the mental load of all the domestic labor. They're sick of being the default parent. Maybe it is time to societally hand off that torch and see how men do. Others, such as Time magazine, warn against letting your husband be a stay-at-home dad. Their reason being for issues that working fathers face all the time, but ironically no one really cared about until it would affect women. Those issues being, what if she gets hurt and can't work anymore? What if he leaves her and takes the kids and requests child support and alimony? All things that historically have not stopped men from taking that risk. But I'd argue that all of that is exponentially at a lower risk in this scenario, because did you know that only 20% of divorces are initiated by men? The numbers are seriously in her favor, because fathers are only even granted custody 18% of the time. When they are, the courts only award fathers 36% of the time. Of fathers who get custody, only 39% of them are awarded child support. When they are awarded child support, it's at only half the rate that men's is. And of fathers awarded child support, because no one likes to enforce it on mothers, only 33% of them end up ever seeing any. So the financial motivation for either of you to leave each other is actually pretty mitigated. Instead, I think that you'd find more of an appreciation for each other's roles and contributions. Plus, I honestly think men would have an easier time re-entering the workforce later. What do you think? Is it time to embrace the era of stay-at-home dads and working moms, or is this an affront to the laws of nature and gonna blow up in our faces? Tell me down below.
So here's the thing. Most stay-at-home moms actually don't want to be stay-at-home moms, but they have to be because of men like you. You see, they played by the rules, they went to college, got good grades, and earned their degree. They landed their dream job only to realize that they were not going to be able to continue working and pay for daycare. You see, the job of taking care of kids, the one that you said is so easy to do, it's actually very expensive to pay someone else to do it. I know you mentioned that you wish more moms would stay at home because it's a valuable job, but you don't actually believe that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been so critical and undermining. It's men like you that keep women from getting the deserved promotion. It's men like you of why women get paid less for doing the exact same job as a man. So being a stay-at-home mom is not a privilege. Having choices to decide what we want to do, that's the privilege.
On this. So we're taught very early in life that your career and the life that you lead and the identity that you have outside the home is literally the most important thing that you have to offer. We start asking kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? From the minute they're old enough to talk and go to school. Like, we are obsessed with career and we are obsessed with external validation. So the idea that someone could reject that validation and want to solely focus their entire life around making their home a nice home and taking care of their children and taking care of their spouse completely blows people's minds, because it's opposite of everything that they've been taught to prioritize. Also, stay-at-home parents receive literally no compensation for doing perhaps the hardest and most thankless job out there, and that is really messed up.
Get this all wrong. Because of me, my husband gets to focus on his career. Because of me, my husband gets to take a poop uninterrupted. And because of me, my husband gets a lunch break. Really can't compare working parents and stay-at-home parents. I think they're so different and they're both difficult in their own ways. But the reason stay-at-home parents are constantly defending themselves is because no one actually values what we do as
budget. Stay-at-home mom of 4 years here, and have done it on an income that most people would say, how are you doing that? My first piece of advice is absolutely look at your budget. Look at where every single cent of your income is going. See if there's anything that you can do for less or do without. Do you have things around your house that you can downsize or sell to have some extra cash on hand? And come up with a strict budget for your family that you stick to as much as possible. I never planned to be a stay-at-home mom, but then when my baby was born, I said I have to be home with her. And we were fortunate that my husband found a job that did give us a little bit more money, because neither one of us made a ton of money, but still not very much. And I'm still kind of shocked that we were able to make it work on that income. We make a little bit more now, but with inflation and the way things are going, honestly, it doesn't really seem like it. And we did it all over 1,000 miles away from all of our family and friends. It starts with being a team with your husband. And
having a stay-at-home mom is a privilege if you're the provider. You say, who is responsible for making sure that there's food in the house, making sure there's gas in the car, making sure there's electricity and water. Who is taking that money and budgeting it? Who's going to the grocery store, purchasing the food, and making sure that the bills are paid? Who's doing that? Who's making sure that the kids have school supplies and school clothes? Is it you while you're working, or is it your stay-at-home mom? Who is cooking? Who's cleaning your house? Or you have a personal chef? Do you have a maid? Do you have a chauffeur? Who's driving the kids around? Who's taking the kids to those doctor's appointments that you're providing health insurance for? Who's organizing all of that, those appointments? Making sure that they get done on time, keeping track of them. Who's advocating for your children if they're not getting appropriate care from whatever doctor? Who's taking care of all of that? Do you have a live-in nurse that's doing that? Or is it your stay-at-home mom? So if you were to pay someone for your child care, a babysitter, and you were to pay a chauffeur and a cook and a housekeeper and an accountant to take care of your bills, a personal shopper, can you afford all of those things that your stay-at-home mom's doing for you? And that's just saying that you're providing everything, okay? Now, what if you're barely providing, and then you come home and you're so tired from working that, you're not helping with the kids? While she's been home isolated all day, taking care of maybe small infant children, that she's then doing all of those things and has to stop constantly to breastfeed or nurse or pump and then change diapers and then feed again. Like, do you understand how intricate that is? And this is like every time we do anything as a mother or as a involved parent, especially when they're little, it's all learning experiences. We're teaching about emotional processing skills. What is this? Is it an apple? Apple starts with A. Who's doing that? And who's caring for your child? Who's kissing those boo-boos? Who's doing bedtime stories? Yeah. It's immeasurable. It's not, you're privileged.
Yellow bone, long hair, star, thick and hips come.
See, this is exactly what we're talking about. Men with money don't have an issue or a problem finding a woman and spoiling her, giving her the world. They want to do that. That's their goal. That's their mission. It's always the men who don't have it. And there's nothing wrong if you don't have it. Like, I want that part to be clear. If you can't afford to spoil a woman that you really love, that you really want to be with, if you can't afford it, that's fine. But don't try to shame women if that's what they want. Like, just like how you want a pretty girl and she has to be shaped like this, and you have your requirements, she can have a requirement too. But y'all only want to talk about, what about love? Y'all only want to talk about that when somebody wants some money from y'all. Y'all aren't worried about love when somebody is not your type physically. You're not worried about, what about love when she's a size 16 and you want a size 6. You only want to talk about that when you're not getting what you can have.